want to add before
Yeah,
we move
so
to
I
the
mean,
next one?
every time I've ever, had someone around me, a coworker, my other job, my family, whatever, friends, yeah, Nick sells insurance. It drives me nuts. No, I don't actually. You have to qualify for anything that I'm going to, try to help you with. Oh, and to me, sales breath is terrible, right? So, having statements that keep them in qualifying mode makes people more comfortable, and they want to really dig into what you're going to ask them.
Ooh, I love this one, Dave. You are the most important part of this meeting. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is very important. It seems, and kind of building up to putting these together, we started off with about 20 of these, and we narrowed this down to what we're going over today. And this was a must-have. It's important for them to understand that the whole purpose of this meeting is them, them and protecting their family. And what I mean by that is I'm not the important person here. If it was me and a family or me and a one person, it doesn't matter. In this meeting, the whole purpose is helping them. The whole purpose is literally like, their situation, their why, and the way I say it that way, it seems like completely obvious. Obviously, we're meeting for, we define the purpose of our meeting. We send them the email, text message. They know who we are by the time we get to a meeting. But every single time I say this to somebody, they smile. And it also it completely shifts the momentum to where, like, it's not me. So what I'm essentially saying is I'm not important here, right? But I'm the expert. Of course, I'm the expert in regards to mortgage protection, but it's not important. It's important to me that they understand how important they are. So you kind of view this, when you first make that statement, when we were building this, some the folks that helped us out said, well, geez, it's pretty obvious that that's the whole reason why we're here. But in reality, it's not obvious to everybody why we're meeting. And it's important every single time I say this to somebody, and I use it, again, in the rapport. Every single time you say this to somebody, they're gonna smile. You're gonna pull a smile right out of them right then, and it's just amazing. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, they love being important. Who doesn't like being important, right? So I think saying that multiple times, like, you can't not make somebody feel good when you tell them that they're important, right?
Yeah, you tell your spouse that they're important. Your kids, that you tell them that they're important, and it makes them feel good. So it's the same concept, making them feel good and making them feel appreciative of having this meeting. Yeah. Nick, how does that work for you?
Yeah, it's a lot like what you said. I mean, obviously I've learned from you, but a lot of times too, what this also helps the client understand is, obviously you're telling them this, but this will pair perfectly when you tell them that, you're able to help look through the 30 A-rated carriers or whatever, you tell them that you can help them find products. So it really does put the emphasis on it is their decision, and you are there to help them get things done.
I love it. So I love this one. What's available to you today can be gone tomorrow. This is a qualifying mode statement, right? How many times do you guys hate it when people tell you they want to think about it? How many of you guys do you know that have had COVID, right? Or maybe you've had it yourself, or maybe you've had a health problem or a heart attack or been added a medication or anything, or someone that you care about, right? Or someone that it's like this, you don't know what's going to happen. I remember me personally, I was out running like 5 miles, like snapping a selfie, and the next day I was in an ambulance. Like, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, man. So I know this is so important. You could say this. Like, one of the things about power phrases is you don't just say them once. You say them throughout your whole presentation, and the next thing you know, these people are ready to make a decision at the end, and normally it's a decision to move forward to see if they can get coverage. So Dave, I don't know, or Nick, what you have to add to this one. I love this. This is so good.
Yeah, it's crazy because, quick story. So my daughter played softball and all the way up through to the collegiate level. And one of the things I helped coach for a good long while. And I coached with another gentleman, and him and his wife were like the perfect little power couple. He was Mr. Work shakes, nothing but healthy stuff. Okay. And, I had gone to the doctor, gotten checked up, and his wife and Anna, my wife, were talking and saying, hey, you should go, make sure you're healthy. He's like, oh, you kidding me, man? I exercise. We're all constantly eating all this good stuff. He's like, I don't want to waste my time. And then she kept on pushing me. No, you should just go. You should just go and see. You should just get your blood work. It's been 10 years. It's been ever since I've known you. And so anyways, I get a phone call a couple weeks later, and it was the wife. And she goes, so again, can you again tell me how that living or how that insurance works? I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, so Ryan went to the doctor, and directly from the doctor, they shipped him for emergency surgery, heart surgery. I said, what? And I'm like, oh my God, I get chills right now just telling this story. I'm like, oh my God. And anyways, so he had no idea there was something going on in his heart, and all the doctor had to do is like listen to this guy's heart. And this guy's working out every day, and the doctor said, hey man, if you wouldn't have come in, you could have just boom, dropped right there. Just one day, all of a sudden, you're not here. And it's true. I don't. It's been a while since I told that story, but I got chills telling it. And I mean, that's just one example. I could think of a lot. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, no, for the sake of time, yeah, no, that example's perfect. I had a 26-year-old client that we rescheduled to the next day, right? And he had actually went to work and he did construction and had an elevated heart rate when he didn't even know it because he's young, but he had already had, like you said, a scheduled doctor's visit, and because they had to run tests and everything like that, so he didn't even qualify because of his heart condition that he had. So yeah, it's just important to the client to, you probably want to drop this in a couple times, maybe in the beginning, maybe in the middle. You want them to understand that all we're doing here is applying to see if you can even get approved.
Yeah. And I love what it says here. People don't understand that you could be one step, one doctor's visit, one medical event from not being able to qualify. That's so important. And if we don't say that, they're not going to connect the dots on that all by themselves, right? So us being bold enough, I would, those watching, I would take a screenshot of these as we pull them up, because, this really will change the game for you meeting with your clients.
One more on that last one too, just earlier this year. How many times have you written an application on that person that is telling you how incredibly healthy they are, and then it either instantly through America gets declined or it gets declined, and all this stuff comes up, right? So again, you really don't know what you're dealing with. But earlier this year, we had a customer that literally was on a scooter, and boom, got ran over by an automobile. And they called us and said, hey, we're not sure if he's going to make it overnight. An hour later, he wasn't here. So that was a father of a family of 5 that owns a business here in Sarasota. That happened in March of this year, literally like a half mile up the street from me. So, this is a real strong statement. So perfect. Thank you.
I love it.
I got to jump out on this one, okay? Because this is what it's about right here. I can't help you with the emotional aspect of loss, right? I wish I could, however, I can help you with the financial part. So let me kind of frame this. I don't know how to prepare for death, right? I can't tell my customer what to do from an emotional standpoint. I'm not sure. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but I'm not sure anybody can prepare to lose a spouse, right? Emotionally. I mean, how can you emotionally prepare for that? You don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know how it's going to happen. You don't know. You cannot. I don't know how you can do that, right? But after that initial spouse will die, during that period, that immediate period of loss, there's going to be an emotional crisis, right? I mean, that's what this is. I mean, that's why we're here. We want to make sure that during that emotional crisis, there's not a financial crisis. And you know what? When the customer understands what I just said, I mean, if you're moving so fast, I mean, that you're not picking up on these little things, if the customer understands and listens and is plugged in, and if you get them to a Zoom, right? So we're closing at like 80% of the people that we get to a Zoom. The challenge is getting them to the Zoom, right? But once they're there, I mean, we're explaining it like this, and they understand how powerful and how serious. Now we're transitioning, into the emotion. So this would be the E for emotion in the real system. What do you think, Miranda?
Yeah, no, I love this. So while there's an emotional crisis, you're not also dealing with a financial crisis. Right. And Dave, just as you were talking and kind of explaining it, I started thinking like, wow, I wonder what that would be like to kind of lose that most important person in your life. Like, how would I deal with that? Like, just framing this up, like already had me painting these pictures for myself. And the same thing is going to happen for your client. And I know there's a lot of trainings on the why and how to dig in on emotion, but I think separating the two of saying, okay, emotional crisis versus financial kind of draws that line, that proverbial line in the sand, saying, you know what, we're here to help you with something separate than this. You deal with that, we help you deal with this. Really good. Nick, anything you'd add on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it in, I like to put things in context or perspective sometimes. Think about if you know anyone who passed away or had a family member pass away, or maybe you did, and they had to have a damn GoFundMe account to take care of stuff. I mean, that breaks my heart. I mean, every time you see a family that got, you had some kids and you're getting evicted from your place. I mean, this is what we're doing, guys. We're protecting families so that they don't have to have the life altering, stuff. I've lost friends in the military. I know what it's like. I've seen families torn apart. But having coverage and stuff like that, that is the most valuable thing that you can have. I'd shut off my electric and my cable watching hockey games before I get rid of my life insurance policy.
Yeah, Nick kind of explained, like, I mean, this might be a good spot, but I mean, just briefly explain, the content, like the other day when you brought back to me, like how you're flying down the road and missing all these things in the beginning. And then explain that just briefly if you could.
Oh, yeah. So I work with Dave every day. I get the luxury of having these, like you go to sleep at night and you hear, song you like. I get to hear Dave in my head. So it helps me, with the sales. But yeah, when I was brand new, man, I would meet with a client. I was immediately just rushing to find, here's the price, here's the options, and, I'd get out of it where they needed to think about it, or they, obviously they weren't fully understanding what was going on. And Dave would, Nick, you're going 100 miles a minute. You're missing, you're not seeing the restaurants. You're not seeing the signs. I mean, you're going 100 miles a minute. They can't follow you because you're going too fast. So yeah, making it real and finding the why and statements like this helps you slow it down and, find the important thing for them.
Yep.
Awesome.
So this one, okay, guys, this question, Dave, I remember we were talking about this, planning this call. And I remember when I was new, I went into an appointment and I dove right in, Nick, like you're talking about 100 miles a minute into the why. The girl starts crying. She couldn't even I guess she'd never thought of this before. She was with a husband. They're a new couple. I run outside. I call Ryan Miller. I said, I don't know if I can do this. Like this chick's like crying. He's like, well, that's good. You got her emotional. I'm like, no, no, no. From that moment forward, I learned to tee it up. You can't just dive right into the pool. You gotta get these people emotionally ready, prepare the mind. I'm the author of the Ultimate Sales Training Success Guide. There's a whole chapter on edifying something before you dive into it, right? I think that's chapter 6. So this question was instrumental to me being able to tee it up where the people were ready to have this conversation with me. So Dave, I'll let you dive into it, but man, this changed my business, this question.
Yeah, you kind of you nailed that right there. But this is basically, in my notes I just had. I mean, this is these people aren't having the conversation they're about to have every day at the kitchen table, or when they're dropping their kids off at soccer, or if you're dealing with the older folks that aren't have dependents, anymore. It's not like, hey, let's talk about death, right? So this really gives you permission, in my opinion. You're just, to ask them the difficult question. You're letting them know that this is about to get serious, and otherwise, if you don't tee this up, they're going to joke. How many times have you started going into a why and guys, oh, or she'll start making comments, and nobody makes those comments when you take it hey, listen, we're about to just get serious here for a minute so we can figure this out for you, right? That's kind of my take on this one.
Yeah. Dave, it's so important, Nick. I can imagine this is because you're so fun all the time, right? Like you don't, it seems like you don't know how to have a serious conversation because you're always smiling. You're like, but you got to take it down and not be like, look, do you mind if I ask you some difficult questions that might be hard for you to answer? Like, I think this is important for anyone, but especially those of you that are very extroverted that get people going and you're having a good time. Because if you don't bring them down to this emotional level, you're going to have a hard time connecting with them on the level that they need to make a decision to move forward with something. Right. So, Nick, I don't know what you'd add to this, but man, I know that this is an important one for you too.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. No, the example Dave said about, guys, what would happen, this and this, and they start saying, oh, I guess I'll go to Hawaii. All you're doing is you have to reel them back in and settle them down. So asking this question gives you a ton of posture, which is the whole point, and allows them to, you're getting out of obviously the rapport, and now you're really, really getting into the emotion.
Mm-hmm. And the added power says, so John, what would it look like if Mary went to work yesterday and did not come home today? I'm going to take this up a level. We said work. If you know what they did for a job, I want you to insert it there instead of the word work. If I know that Dave is a real estate agent, I'm going to be like, listen, Anna, if Dave went to work yesterday, real estate agent, driving around showing properties, boom, car accident, he's not home today. What would that look like? What about you add that in and make it as real as it can be for that person? And don't feel bad, guys. If you don't have these conversations with people, who's going to? If the first time that they're going to think about this is when it happens in real life. I sucked. Like when I got in this business, I was terrible at talking about emotion. I hated it. I'm not an emotional type of girl that I'm the opposite. I was always trained, don't talk about that stuff. So this was very hard for me. Teeing it up and then making it a real conversation. That's your fiduciary responsibility for this job, this career. So Dave, I love what you guys put together. This is so good.
Thank you. Yeah, no question about it. This is one where you do change the direction of the conversation. I mean, and if you don't do that, then you're going to keep running this at that same speed, and they're not going to be able to keep up with you, and you're not going to be on the same page.
You don't want to be as fast as the Tampa Bay Lightning, okay? You want to kind of slow it down a little, not be lightning speed type thing.
That's right.
All right. All right, I'll let you guys take this one. This is a really cool one.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
No, this is yours. I got one coming up. This is definitely a Dave. This is definitely a Dave Albero posture statement, and I try to use it, but you're the best at this one for sure.
Yeah. So the new kind of insurance, you don't need to die to use the coverage. Now, of course, if you're doing critical period with some older folks or you have health issues, you're not going to really dive into this, but so many times when I get called in to help someone and they're just selling death insurance, right? So that's not really our core products aren't just death insurance. The core products that we have living benefits. And so when you say, hey, listen, you don't have to die to use the coverage, because the person, they might have spoken to somebody before you, believe it or not, right? Or they could have spoke to their mom, dad, brother, and they all talk about death, but nobody talks about the living benefits. So what I mean by that is depending on the product, if you have an illness or disability, and again, it depends on your product set that you're presenting, or you die, right? And you would use the insurance. So the money, I tell them, look, the money would come to you because you're the beneficiary. If you're alive, right? If it's a living benefit, and the money goes to your beneficiary if or when you die. So that makes it real too. Oh, the money comes to me, right? And it's the new kind of insurance. So a lot of times this separates us from everybody else because it's the new kind. And we're talking about it. If you don't talk about it, it's too easy just to talk about death, and you could be moving too fast. So slow down a little bit and explain to them, about the new type of insurance, because everybody wants the new car, the new Duramax, the new whatever you want, the new Yamaha on the back of their boat. Everybody wants the new, right? So this is the new type of insurance.
Yeah, and one of the things here, guys, and we're talking about stuff in the home, but this is something that I think gets used on the phone probably even more than in the home when people are, oh, I don't need that, I already got life insurance. Oh, well, we're not talking about that. This is the new kind. And that word, just to repeat it, is new. That grabs people's attention. I love it. Great stuff,
Assumption.
Nick.
This is during the assumption. So we're just assuming, we're explaining how it's working. So we're assuming that they're going to well, I'm assuming they're going to qualify. They don't know whether they're going to qualify, but we're assuming that we're going, we're explaining the coverage that we're applying for, assuming that's the next step is the application, I feel, or options.
Cool. Who wants this one?
Go ahead, Nick.
No, this is another, Dave.
Okay,
I
we're saving. I know which one we're.
I just, for the sake of time, yeah, no, I could give awesome examples, and if you need them, email me or text me, but I want you to hit this one.
We'll make sure that everybody understands this. Do you know what the best type of insurance you could have is, right? I mean, you could word this a couple different ways. So go ahead, Miranda, pop up the green. So the best type of insurance is going to be the type of insurance that's there when something happens, not if something happens. So in order for it to be there, it needs to be affordable. So every single time before I'm going to go into options, I'm point blank. Hey, listen, before we go any further, do you know what the best or type of insurance you could have?
And let them bake on it. This is something that new people too, you want to rush through everything, right? Give them a minute to noodle on this. And I remember working with Marlon Faulkner on, I think, a speech. He said, I want you to count to 8 seconds here, right? Like the next person that talks loses, the same thing as when you put money on the table. So wait for them to actually respond. Don't be in a huge rush. This is a very interesting question that's going to kind of leave people I don't know what he's talking about.
I know
perfect. So yes, I love it.
I know in sales, a lot of times, people, we don't want to ask questions we don't really know the answer to, but this is a little bit different where, you're really getting them. Like, I love the word noodling. I've never heard of that before. Like recently, noodling over. That's perfect. But yeah, exactly. I think we keep this one up pretty good.
Yeah. So that's the one that's there when something happens, and it has to be affordable. That's so cool. I love it. Oh, this is a good one.
This one I love.
This is a good one.
A good, I actually got this from a Zoom call that we did, training. What others have done in your situation is this. A lot of times clients are kind of confused on what they should do. Sometimes they'll ask you, hey, Nick, what do you think I should do? At any time, if you really do care about them, you're going to say something like this. And because a lot of times they're looking to be led. You're the professional. They don't know anything about mortgage protection, equity protection, whatever. So what others have done in your situation is this. Oh, well then if other people have done it like the same, just like me, perfect. So I like this one.
In the date, this is when you're putting money on the table, right? And you could even say, I know I might be coming up on this next slide here, but it's like, wow, this is the same. If you were my brother, if they're like similar age, or your grandpa, if they're kind of the age of your grandpa, what the others in your exact situation is this. That's so good because they've got to draw in the fact that, man, other smart people do blank. That's so good.
Yeah, and then obviously with the green here, so of the options shown here, whether it's 1, 2, well, generally you probably want to have 2 here, 2 or 3, so what, of the options shown here, which seems to be the best fit for you? And then I just do this and I shut up. And then, I let them, this is something that they have to see value in.
Yep. And the next person that talks loses. Sales 101, right? I remember in my last business, I would talk, and I remember my mentor was right next to me, kicks me under the table. He's like, you don't talk. He's right on the table. I was like, woo, that's all I needed, but we can't do that here because we're trouble. But yeah, so good. Dave, anything you'd add?
That's the thing. It's like you talk, you just let them at this point. It's like you're serving a tennis, right? It's their turn now. You've kind of guided all the way up. We've used all these power statements, posture. At this point, this should be just a no-brainer. And this is, of course, when we're still in assumption, you know, yeah, and it kind of leads right into this next one as well.
Okay, so this is at the end, right, Dave? You've got them, they picked an option, and this is something that really was a light bulb for me. I might be working with a couple, and let's say Nick is kind of hemming and hawing, and he goes, yeah, that one looks pretty good. When I was new, I wanted Nick to be like, oh, I want to go with that one. I wanted to hear it out of his mouth, but really, if they motion towards one, that's a yes. Don't be weird. They motion towards one, they're kind of thinking like positively about something, and like, and then you've got to drop this right here, because if you be weird, you can lose the sale right here. But instead, Dave Albero is going to recommend.
Yep. Would you grab your driver's license? So this is just amazing. If you're not, I mean, I call it the driver's license close, but you know, they're into options. Like she says, as soon as you get one buying signal, this is where you got to slow down. You're literally like hunting. You're like got the buying signal radar going on, right? As soon as you get one little buying signal, Miranda, would you grab your driver's license? And then you don't say anything, and then you're instead of I like to have a conversation, so I do use some visuals, but most of the time I'm not 100% behind, you know, them seeing my screen. So at this point, you want to make sure that they are seeing your screen. You're pulling an app. Miranda, driver's license. Would you grab your driver's license? Boom, e-app up. And guess what? If they're sitting down, as soon as you ask for the driver's license, they won't even say I'll be right back or anything. They just flat out get up and they go get it. And then it's like boom.
New people, this is something you don't want to do. Can you grab your driver's license? We don't say can. We don't say what I need. Like, would you is kind of like we're trying to say what I need you to do here. Boom. You're assuming they're gonna do it. Do you mind if you grab your driver's license? Like, you're gonna lose the whole darn thing. That's why the way that this stuff is worded is really important, because little tiny things like that can make you sound like you're not confident that they should do anything. Okay, I know because I've done it, and that's why I couldn't close the door behind me when I started here. So. All right, this is another one, Dave, or Nick, whoever wants to take this one, that you can lose it here, right? That we need to get their bank information to finish the app, right? So boom, this is it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I say this, right when I get to the financial responsibility portion of the application, or I know it's the next slide, I know it's also probably the last slide, you know, and I say, you know, hey, Dave, you know, if you're approved, will this be coming out of a checking or a savings account? And then they'll just say checking. Okay, routing number. That's it. I mean, I'm not making this special. I'm making it as business as possible. I do this every day. I help families. This is as generic as it gets. And we jump right into it. And I'm not asking, hey, can you tell me what your routing number is? What is your routing number? What is your account number? Oh, just like that.
Yeah, this is it right here. I mean, this is the financial responsibility part of the application right here, where, you know, keeping it simple, and you don't want to lose your posture, or you're going to lose this part of the game. So
write this down, everyone listening. If you're approved, that can come up 100 times during your presentation. You can start saying, if you're approved. That's just the power phrase by itself. The whole time, if you're approved, if you're approved, if you're approved, because you won't know, the last thing you want them to do is think that they already got the coverage, right? We already established we can't sell them coverage. Their health is going to decide if they can get that or not. And
Yeah,
this goes,
I do that all the time.
So this one is our last one, and then we're done. But here's the thing. I remember having a conversation with Nick and Dave, and Nick was telling me about how he had an agent that needed help on a call. He was trying to close and he was new. And the thing is that this next line is how you can overcome anything, right? You can overcome anything, because the way that we start, that we react to things or not, is going to change how the client perceives things and reacts or not. So this is the final one. This is one of my favorites, but I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. So this, so I believe it was on a boat ride when we had some of these conversations, which is awesome. But this is a non-issue. So what I mean by that is, you know, if they say, oh, geez, Dave, you know, and again, we can use this throughout. So this might be, you know, what Dave Kushner considers advanced, right? So this is a little above just some basic salesmanship, but it's really not, because we have brand new people applying this, once they understand how to use it. So let's just say banking. Oh man, I never give my banking information over.
Well, you give them the story. I mean, it puts it in perfect context.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's a non-issue. So then we're having lunch one day, and Nick needed to help. There was an agent, so he got a phone call, and he had to help an agent. And he was back in like 3 or 4 minutes. And he sat back down. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it was a non-issue." And I was like, "Oh, what part of the conversation did this come up?" "Oh, it was banking."
Yeah, the guy, he saw me, he liked me and everything. And Nick, I'll be honest. I told Kyle, I just don't give out my personal info with my bank, and I don't like to pay stuff online. And I was like, no, I understand, but this is a non-issue. And then he goes, "Oh, okay." And then obviously, like he just, this, I'm making a big deal of this. Yeah, okay.
So it
You
can
said
apply
something
throughout.
like, you said it's a non-issue, and then you kind of backed it up. I think, Nick, you said
Yeah.
people do this all. So tell them what
Yeah.
you said after, because you had to like back it up with something.
Well, I saw the look on his face, and he was like, "Oh," and then as I just could I read people pretty well. He's like, "Oh, I'm making a big deal of this." I said, "Yeah, honestly, I've been doing this a little longer than Kyle. I've never had an issue with this. This is the financial responsibility portion. Kyle's also licensed and insured, so this is a non-issue." And then that's it. Okay, it's Chase Bank, and he went on with his stuff. So, yep, 3 minutes.
Yeah, so the non-issue, was an example, awesome example. I love it. So we started using this, throughout. So in the beginning, when you transition into an e-app, I mean, you're transitioning however long it took you to get to that spot, but you're transitioning into personal information, right? So sometimes of course, the more you do it, the less you even get any objection. But when they do come up, the social security, yeah, that's a non-issue. And
So I was like thinking about where I would use it even on the phone. Like, let's say somebody said to you, "Hey, listen, I don't want to do it because it's so expensive. I've had other people come out here." Well, that's a non-issue. I help people in your spot all the time. Boom, right back to script. Right? Like you can just use it, hears people down. I just love it. It's so cool.
Yeah, on the phone I've never done a Zoom. That's a non-issue. Yeah, no, I'm uncomfortable. I don't know how to do a virtual meeting. A non-issue. You can get email, right? Yep. Okay, good. Non-issue then. So I think this when you know how to apply the non-issue, man, it makes life so much easier when there's no issues.
Yeah, I use it everywhere, to be honest. It's like buffalo sauce, man. I use it at home. I use it everywhere. Non-issue.
Buffalo sauce, man. I love this. I know we went a little long. I kept getting texts though, like blown up thing. I don't care if it goes over. Don't stop. We want to hear all of these things. So we did it, guys. We got it done. I'm just really proud of you two. I'm along for the ride on this one, but these guys put all of this together, and I just got to kind of join in. And man, this was fun. I love everything that you guys are bringing to the table and learning and absorbing from everyone. And I can't wait to hear what people do with this. Let us know when you use one of these power phrases and how it helps your business. Because I know, like I said before, applying that, it was necessity versus luxury. That power phrase changed my business, where I was able to help people that normally I would have ruled themselves out. But I said, "Yo, man, here's the thing. This is a luxury for you." And they're like, "Okay, I like luxuries." Like, it's just these little non-issue things, that.
Great one. That's a great one.
Yeah, I love this. I love this stuff. And so I just want to thank Nick for joining us. This is your first national call. I believe this is my third call. Over the last 2.5 years I've been here. Miranda, I don't even know if you can count how many calls you've been on, but I just also wanted to extend my attitude of gratitude. I appreciate everything that you do in regards to helping your team, helping me, and helping everybody here. But over the course of a couple of years, I mean, there's been 2 major times when I needed to reach out, and I was able to reach out. You were there for me, so thank you.
I love you guys, man. Big things. Let's have a great end of the month. Or we're midway through, man, and we got what's going to happen here at Tampa Bay Lightning?
Guys, this would be so against my personality if I didn't say what I'm about to say, but we got a buddy, Michael Mascola, who likes the Islanders, and I just got to say to anybody who likes the Islanders, go Bolts, baby.
Go Bolts, go Bolts. Right here, just like they do on TV. Go Bolts. All right, guys. Happy Monday.
Have a great week, everybody.